Hello and welcome to the Teach Music 21C podcast series. I'm Merlin Thompson, the creator and founder of Teach Music 21C. It's a professional development program for music studio teachers where we focus on nurturing and empowering our students as lifelong music makers. And I'm joined today by Lorrie Merrell once more, an experienced piano teacher and long-term supporter of Teach Music 21C. Hello, Lorrie.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, things are just great here. Absolutely. And
Great.
we've got a special topic today to talk about teachers, music teachers, and our patience with students. And I'm going to turn it right to you because I know you've got something that you'd like to share with us, and a story maybe about one of your students. Why don't I just pass it to you? It's this whole thing, the challenges that come with being a patient music teacher.
Yeah, that's a great skill that all teachers need to have is patience, of course. And I think patience in terms of long-term development, like years of what you're going to develop with a student, and patience just right then and there in the lesson. And depending on the student's mood, the student's age, what's going on in their life, you kind of have to think about all of that and think what's going on right now, and maybe take a step back and ask a few questions and be patient about right then and there. So there's kind of two goals I have in mind: is the long term, and then right there at the lesson, and what you do for both.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that up because the long term, well, actually, both of those aspects are something that we can lose sight of. So the long term, I'm always thinking, that musical development occurs over time and not overnight. And so part of what my responsibility to my students, I always remember one of the teachers that I had when I was younger. She always used to say things like, "Don't worry if you forget what I've said this week, because I'm basically going to say the same thing again next week." And so there's this idea, I always marvel when I run into a teacher and they say something like, "I told this student to do this, on a certain occasion, and they still haven't done it." And I've wondered, well, but how did you revisit it? Did you revisit it the same way? Because if you revisit things the same way, you can pretty much be assured you'll just get the same response every time. Are you changing things up when you revisit things? So I really appreciate this long term. Yeah, we've got things to do there. And then right in the moment.
Yeah, I think that for long term, I have certain goals that I want them to do. I have a student that came to me as a transfer and just absolutely no strength in fingers, no body strength, just a knowledge of some chords and stuff. And I thought, oh, I've got to give her some oomph and strengthen this up. And every week it was such a trial of my patience because I'm like, just get strong on this. But it was so much fun. I kept thinking, just do these things and revisit them, like you say, and just keep asking over and over, different ways in different pieces, and then watch this development. And just in terms of 1 year, looking back, there was a change, and it was so much fun to celebrate that and see that.
For
But
sure.
it did take a lot of patience and like you say, repetition of asking the same thing and being clever about it, so it's fun for the student also. But there was some growth there, and
Yeah.
that was so reassuring and felt so good to me that we did accomplish some things. And then I talked to her about it, and I just said, wow, you should just be so proud of yourself. Look at how far you've come and what you've done, and how much more fun this is to play now that you have this ability here that you've worked on. So congratulations to you. But as you say, that was 1 year. I'm looking at, a few years and how to
Most of you.
count that.
Yeah.
But it is so satisfying to see little increments of growth in the students in these long-term lessons.
Yeah, and I appreciate something that you were saying about, pointing out for student how they've developed. So I've noticed a lot that, students aren't always necessary of their own growth. And it can be really, frustrating for them to think, oh, I'm not getting anywhere, or I'm still at the same level that I was at a certain period of time. And so students need teachers' eyes, and they need our observation capacity. They need our ability to watch what they're doing and to see where they're coming from. So that's one part of it. But I appreciate what you were saying about we've got to share that with our students as well. So it's not enough just to say to ourselves, oh, I see all this growth and it's looking really good. Is the student aware of that? And if the student's not aware of it, what processes can we use so that we transfer that awareness to them and they become ownership of that whole, they have ownership then of that whole process.
Yeah, definitely making them aware of it, because to them, sometimes lessons are just this little spot in their life, just something where they have to be and what they have to do on Tuesdays at 3:00, you know. so to bring that awareness to them, and maybe that's where goal setting. What are some things that you would like to accomplish, and what are some things that you would like to have by the end of the year, and what can we do, and write it down. Now that's where the conferences, the parent-teacher conferences come up, where we talk about the life skills and the family home life and the musical abilities that they have. And we talk about those, set goals, and then visit it in the next term and say, okay, where have we come and what have we done? And what do you think about this? And what do you want to change? So that they're constantly, well, not constantly, but in terms aware of what they want to accomplish and what they want to do, and to look back and see, to reflect on what they've done and how they've accomplished it, and where do you want to go from here. So actually writing it down is a really fabulous way to do that, because then they have something solid to look at.
Yeah, and it is that whole thing about things that we write down. We respond to them differently than things that are just running around in our head. And I know for me, when I put things on paper, especially, if I'm doing something like journaling, and it might be journaling the same thing 3 days in a row. And the fourth day I'm going like, okay, like this is enough. You've written it down 3 times. Are you going to do something about this or not? And for students, what I appreciate of writing it down is that we can also then keep a record. So we see I love looking back within that reporting mechanism of keeping track of students' musical goals, my musical goals. And let's look back. Let's see where you were a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and see what we've done, or see what we've left out, see what we still have, things that we want to work on that we've somehow we never get to. So I appreciate that writing things down is a really great mechanism for tracking to the back, to see where we've coming from, and then projecting as well into the future. So where are we wanting to end up?
Yeah, it's really powerful. And when I started doing that with parent-teacher conferences and tracking and doing what you say, writing it down, looking at the past and at the future, it's made a tremendous difference in the students. And also in their excitement for what they want to do, and that they see that they've written it down and they can do it. And looking back, it's just a huge confidence booster. Yeah. and motivator for them. Mm-hmm. to do that. It's made a huge difference. So I highly recommend doing those parent-teacher conferences. And even for the parents too, if I'll just talk to the parent and make them aware of what's going on, then they can get behind it and put that kind of idea into the family life, and talk about it in their family home life and make it part of it. It strengthens the whole process.
Yeah, it reminds me of a phrase that I put in my book, More Than Music Lessons. And the phrase is something like, every person wants to be validated for who they are and what they do. And so, that can seem like a really simple statement. That might seem like, oh, that's just praising people. That's telling them they're a good person. I like your dress. I love the color of your hair. Those kinds. It can seem really just like it's a superficial acknowledgement. But what I'm really talking about It's the actions that people take, so what they do, and then the thought processes that are behind those actions. And again, it's a kind of thing that students may not be aware of those kinds of things. They may not be aware of their own thought processes. In fact, I suspect that's pretty consistent that students aren't aware of their thought processes. So if we can build in their own awareness of their thought processes and where they get with those thought processes, that can be a really marvelous thing.
It is. And patience that we started off with is a part of that.
Yeah.
Talking continually, reminding, talking, reflecting, noticing, and validating that's a very important word. We all love validation.
Yeah, for sure.
And to be valued for what we have done. That makes me feel good when I've, and to do it, when it's needed.
So we've got to some important places this morning. It is this morning, but today we got to some important places today, talking about this idea of patience, and we had long-term, and then the immediacy of patience as well, and then we could see that there are actual steps to being what's involved in patience, the awareness that comes with that, the sharing of that awareness with others, the reflective capacity that comes on as well, and then this really important word, validation.
Yeah, we all need it and love it, and it helps us so much to be validated. So those words, patience and reflection, goal setting, and bringing in the family home life, I think, is important too, because then everyone is kind of on board.
Absolutely.
And revisiting, those are your power tools for teaching. And for me to constantly remind myself of where I am with this student and what does this student need right then in that lesson, what can I do? And to nurture all of these things that we've just talked about.
Absolutely.
Nurture it week after week after week after week.
Yeah. So we've had our power booster on patience today. I hope everybody who's tuning in to watch this podcast has got what the message is. It's a powerful thing, patience. It includes lots of tiny details that can really help us in becoming, I would say, good facilitators of patient processes. So Lorrie, thanks so much for joining in today. It's been great to see you.
Thank you. It's always nice. I love it.
Thanks to everyone who's joined in to view the Teach Music 21C podcast series. I'm Merlin Thompson. I've been here today with Lorrie Merrell, and I'll see you again the next time. Bye for now.